So I want to do a review and how to remove and install the Taran Tactical Benelli hammer spring inside of your Stoeger M3000 or M3K. So the hammer spring is for the hammer that actually hits the firing pin in here. It has a spring that pops it up and gives it that pressure it needs to still knock the firing pin out. So Taran Tacticals is a reduced power. It's still enough to hit the firing pin, but it's going to be a little bit lighter. And why you're going to want that is because when your bolt is cycling, when your hammer is up right here after you've fired and you cycle the bolt, it has to push back down onto the hammer itself to be able to cycle the bolt far enough to pick the next shell up and then bring it into the barrel. So by doing that, you're going to make the gun cycle smoother. It's not going to feel like it's ramping as hard. I mean, I immediately noticed the replacement just in racking back the charging handle. It is a little bit lighter. So I shot about 100 rounds through this just today and didn't have any issues using the low recoil shot that I used today. So we're going to go ahead and talk about how that's going to help you out. Another area that you're going to notice that you're going to feel the difference is in your trigger, because your trigger has a point where it meets with the hammer itself. So by relieving some of the pressure that's up against the hammer right there holding the trigger, you're actually going to feel a lighter trigger inside of here. So we're going to start by removing the trigger package right here out of the receiver itself. Okay, now that you have your trigger assembly out, you can go ahead, if your hammer is down, go ahead and press down on it, release the trigger, and slowly let it up. Don't let it slam. Take the tension off of the hammer. This cylinder right here is the hammer spring cap. So we're going to be removing that. The only thing holding it in right now is this piece right here. So it's holding it in right there. To remove that piece enough to where we can get the hammer cap out and the hammer spring, we need to remove the retention spring right here. If you're the type of person that loses springs or just has that kind of luck, Taran Tactical also has replacements for these, so you'll probably want to get some of these too. The way I like to get this spring out is it has a flat end and a notch in there. I'll put my finger onto this side and I'll very gently use a razor blade to lift up on this end of the spring. And there we go. The spring is easily removed. Set it aside somewhere you're not going to lose it. And now I don't take the whole thing apart. What I do is I put my index finger onto the hammer cap right here. I press down, and then with the other hand I slowly remove the other piece. Now it is under pressure, so be extremely careful when you take it out. So the cap comes off, factory Stoeger cap. This is the Taran Tactical spring as I've been running it. I'm going to go ahead and pull out the factory spring and show you the two against each other. But it is literally that easy to remove it, and same thing for the installation as vice versa. Okay, side by side on the left we have the Taran Tactical spring. On the right we have the factory Stoeger M3K spring, as well as the factory hammer spring cap, as well as the factory retention spring. Right off the bat, the one thing you are going to notice about the Taran Tactical spring is that it is slightly longer in length. It is about an 1/8 inch longer. It is also slightly narrower in diameter, which is not an issue for any reason I could see in there. I didn't have any problems with it. It doesn't move around too much once it's inside of the cap. The spring itself, the coil, is also smaller in diameter as well, because it is a reduced power spring. Taran Tactical offers a hammer spring cap, as well as I said earlier, the replacement retention springs right here. They do say that the caps will wear out over time, and as most of you should know, all springs wear out over time, so these are parts that are going to need to be replaced at some point. So if you're buying one, you might as well get yourself a backup or two, so that way you don't have to worry about ordering it later. The Taran Tactical spring is an excellent modification for the Stoeger M3K. This is a Benelli spring, and I haven't had any issues with it, as their systems are very, very similar. So the spring itself comes in at a whopping $7.99, plus you're going to have to pay for shipping depending on where you live. So I mean, for what it does, it's an excellent little modification. I mean, I'm really impressed with it. The adjustment feel in the trigger, as well as the cycling of the bolt, it was very impressive. I'm very happy with it. It's one of the best modifications I've done, and by far, clearly, it's the best modification bang for the buck. So I'm very happy with that. At some point, I'll eventually get the cap and some extra clips as well, and have those on standby. So whenever I do my yearly maintenances and go through and just replace springs as needed, I have them on standby, and I don't have to worry about ordering them or having a down shotgun. So. Okay, so reinstalling their new Taran tactical spring is in the very similar order to what we took it out as. We're going to go ahead and scoot that retainer over just enough. We don't want to lose that pin through there. So we're going to go ahead and install our spring, slide it past there, put our cap on, slide it past as well. It is going to be under pressure, so be careful. Go ahead and press your pin back through, make sure your retainer's back over it, and you're going to want to find the notch on the pin that is holding everything in place right there. You're going to take your retaining clip. I like to do in the reverse order I took it off as, so I'm going to put that flat section right into that notched area. I'm going to line it up a little bit better, and I'm going to use my thumb to roll it in there. I'm going to roll it right over the pin while putting some pressure on the back side so I don't push that through, and it's already in there. It's seated, it's good to go. So now you can go ahead and test your spring. Make sure you have some movement in there, it's not locked up for any reason. You're going to want to make sure you put a nice little coating of oil on that spring, and as well as inside the cap right there too, before you would have done the installation. I'm sorry, I should have mentioned that earlier. But now you are good to go, and you can reinstall the trigger assembly back into the shotgun and go do some testing at the range, make sure everything works good. So the reason I say you're going to want to test your gun at the range is because you're going to want to make sure that you have enough power behind your hammer still to hit your firing pin. Now, I've had no issues with this on my shotgun. Every shotgun is a little different. Maybe you don't keep yours as clean. Maybe you use a different lubricant. I mean, there's a lot of different variables. Break-in periods. I often shoot some heavy loads through here too, just because I like to soften my springs up a little bit. So that's something you're going to want to test at the range. I wouldn't go right into a match or something with it. I would kind of know that, hey, what's going to happen with your particular shotgun. So hopefully everything works out for you, and this video helps and you guys enjoy the modification.